listener production.
Hey, it's Antoinette Lattouf. This is the Weekend Briefing, and it's where we hit pause on the headlines and I get to zoom in on somebody, or well, hang out with somebody who's making waves. And my guest today is somebody I've known for a few years and whose work I've really admired. Cameron Wilson is a journo with a specialty in internet reporting. I know that sounds like a strange specialty, but that specialty has taken him to some fascinating places and some fascinating topics. And his latest subject matter that is really zeroed in on is conspiracy theories. He's written a book called Conspiracy Nation. You might be thinking, oh God, every second person gets called a conspiracy theorist, and you're not wrong. In this chat, we explore how the notion of conspiracy theory has become a bit of a slur. We also canvass how Australia has a specific and very Australian flavour of conspiracy theorists. We talk about sovereign citizens and the sovereign citizens movement, but also, and I think really interestingly, Cameron talks about how spending time with people who are really embedded in these theories and communities, how he came to have a lot of understanding and empathy as to what draws people to really change their life according to a theory that they believe in. And later in the show, it's the weekend list. And this week, I am joined by Chris. And we are going to give you hot tips on what to watch, see, eat and do. Because you know what? We are generous like that. But first, my chat with Cameron Wilson. Cam Wilson, welcome to the Weekend Briefing.
So good to be here.
Okay, so we are going to talk about conspiracy theories. And I think to begin with, we probably need to try and define what that is, because I do note in your book, one of the first things that he said, and it's acknowledged, that it's a word bandied around a lot and often as an insult.
Yeah, people calling other people conspiracy theorists, not usually a particularly nice term.
Yeah.
And we start off our book, Conspiracy Nation, by saying that we actually try not to use the term conspiracy theorist too much because it is quite derogatory in the way that people generally use it. But we wrote this book about people who believe in conspiracy theories to the point that it's changing their lives.
Yeah.
And, you know, the name of the book is Conspiracy Nation, and it kind of surprises people that, like, conspiracy theory beliefs, like people who believe in conspiracy theories or at least say they do, it's pretty high. Like I think like a good quality survey of Australians found that about half of them believe in one conspiracy theory. Now that's everything from that Harold Holt was kidnapped by a Chinese submarine, or that the Wallabies were poisoned ahead of their game with the All Blacks in the 90s, all the way up to like COVID-19 conspiracy theories, QAnon, like all the more intense things. So there's a wide range of them. But, you know, at its core, a conspiracy theory is the idea that there is a small group of people who are acting against the public good with a secret plan, often to the benefit of themselves. There are real conspiracies, and we say this in the book, like a conspiracy is distinct from a conspiracy theory because every day in the media we uncover real secret plans by small groups of people to further their own interests. But when we talk about conspiracy theories, we generally mean ones, you know, these ideas about schemes and plots that can't be proven or are perhaps disproven. You know, these are the things that people cling to, these simple but grand understandings of the world that are fundamentally not proven or not true.
Okay. You said that in that survey, at least half of Australians believe in a conspiracy theory. I doubt, though, people are like self-identifying, card-carrying conspiracy theorists in that they identify as such.
No,
they do?
No, they don't. And that's the thing. Like, when you get into this arena, it becomes immediately apparent how complex this is. Because, like, what does it mean to, like, believe something? And, you know, what, yeah, I feel like I'm getting philosophical here, but like, what is even like a belief in itself? Because again, let's use that Harold Holt example. You might be at a, you know, like at a family barbecue and someone brings up Harold Holt and you're like, oh, I think he got kidnapped by the Chinese in a submarine and didn't actually drown. It's one thing to say that, and maybe you even say that you believe it. But, like, do you believe it enough for it to affect your life?
Right.
Are you like,
so that's that's the threshold.
Totally. Like, are you like, we need to change Australians' foreign policy, or maybe, you know, up our prime ministerial security to protect our leaders? Like, no. So, like, there is this wide range. And in the book, we really want to focus on the people who take this stuff seriously, the people whose lives are changing, who are hurting often themselves, who are often hurting others by believing in things that are at best unproven and probably not true.
So obviously with your allusions to Harold Holt, and I can even think of, who really killed Princess Diana, conspiracy theories are not new. What's interesting in this book is it's Conspiracy Nation. So you are focusing on Australians and more, I guess, modern or current conspiracies. What can you tell me about how conspiracy theories unfold in an Australian context? And are we more conspiratorial now than we were before?
We wanted to write something about Australia because when the pandemic happened, we saw people protesting in our streets, all over our social media feeds, about how public health restrictions were a New World Order kind of plan, that maybe COVID-19 was a hoax or wasn't real, when, they thought that Donald Trump was going to reveal that all these politicians who he was opposed to were actually secretly satanic pedophiles. People reacted to that by saying, that doesn't seem Australian. That seems like foreign, maybe imported from America. And having spent time, talking to these people in their online spaces, going to their protests, deeply understanding and engaging with their worlds and the information they're consuming and putting out, we understood that they are really Australian. There is a lot of Australia in the conspiracy theories that emerge in Australia, that take hold in Australia.
Like what?
Well, so we kind of, in the book, link a lot of different parts of Australian identities to popular conspiracy theories in Australia. So this ranges from, we speak early on in the book about Port Arthur. Port Arthur massacre is, actually, I was surprised how still resonant the event is to people today.
It was in the mid-90s, was it?
Mid-90s, 1996, Mun Bryant took 2 rifles and killed 35 people and then was caught. And then what happened after then was actually something that I was surprised really, really still is almost like part of Australian identity and pride right now, which is that politicians actually did something. They did some significant gun reform.
It's the only thing I like about John Howard.
Exactly. It wins him. I'm sure it still wins him points at parties now. And the thing about conspiracy theories is that they undermine these stories that we know about ourselves, and they actually challenge them and maybe say that they are, actually what you thought was an act of great political courage, doing the right thing, was actually an act of political bastardry. What happened is that this event was either manufactured or maybe it was made up altogether. And therefore, if you believe that, you then believe the idea of taking away our guns wasn't actually, again, something good, but something trying to disarm Australians, trying to make them weak. So this is a really, really core Australian conspiracy theory that now feeds into a lot of other communities because people say...
And that's a current conspiracy theory, even though the Port Arthur massacre happened 29 years ago.
It is a current one because it's almost like people now see it as one of the main stories where they're if they lied to you about Port Arthur, this thing that for all your life you thought was so important and actually such a sad but ultimately an event that led to a good thing, imagine what else they're lying to you about. So people who will often come in through one kind of conspiracy theory, maybe, again, let's use the pandemic as an example. Say you got in through, you didn't believe in vaccines or mask mandates. Then you start to get kind of brought into these other conspiracy theories because they say all of this, fits together. It's all part of one simple narrative that the government, that powerful figures are lying to you and trying to make you weak and docile.
And how does the sovereign citizens movement play out in a uniquely Australian way?
Yeah, so sovereign citizens have been around for quite a long time. We use the term in the book pseudo-law because sovereign citizen's actually kind of an American term, but it's all kind of interchangeable. But for those people not familiar, you probably would recognise there is a group of people who believe that Australia's legal system is illegitimate for a variety of reasons. And as a result, they say that I don't have to abide by the Australian legal system and I can use this pseudo-legal, legal sounding terminology to actually get me out of the obligations that everyone has. So this is things from I'm not going to pay my parking fines, I'm not going to pay my mortgage, I'm not going to wear a mask, all of these things they say but because of reasons, for example, when Australia's kind of cut its ties to the British legal system, actually that wasn't done properly, or actually the flag that we have now is not a legitimate one, so therefore everything that was done under the flag now, again, is not kind of legally sound. All of these reasons are kind of used to justify essentially why they don't want to do what they're being told to do.
Did you meet any of these people in the book?
Yeah.
How do they live their lives? It's lovely to say, I'm not going to pay the mortgage and I'm not going to pay the parking fine.
It does sound good, doesn't it?
I mean, it sounds lovely. But how does that play out?
Sovereign citizens and pseudo-law adherents are actually in writing the book, we talked about all kinds of people who believe in all kinds of conspiracy theories. But there's something about them, there's something really sympathetic about it, which is this idea that we saw time and time again, people would get in a tough situation. They would get a parking fine they couldn't pay. Maybe they couldn't pay their land rates. And they were looking for an answer, and they came up against a legal system that they don't understand.
Or bureaucracy, insurance companies.
Exactly, all these things in a situation that's really tough. And then someone comes along, these pseudo-law gurus, which is a way of, saying the people who are in this belief who often will either sell access or just promote these ideas for their own benefit. They'll say, I have the solution. All the stuff that you're dealing with, I can actually help you find the way out. And what is really sad about it is not only is that like a totally understandable situation, but what you often see is this progression where someone dips their toe into it. They have an initial problem where they don't pay their parking fine, and then they go to court, and then they don't pay attention in court. They refuse to adhere to the court rules. The judge holds them in contempt, and then they get a warrant out against them. Their house gets repossessed. It escalates and escalates. Then
they shoot a cop and they're on the run.
Exactly, and all the way along that, you end up the situation gets worse and worse. And from their perspective, they're getting more and more persecuted. So then they decide the legal system is even more unfair. And so it pushes them more into the hands of these kind of, absurd beliefs. Now, I'm not saying I'm defending what they're doing. I'm not ultimately these people are responsible for what they do. But it is a really sad situation. And in the book, we speak to a former judge who was able to help a guy out of these kind of beliefs because he had time in court. His other court cases had cancelled that day. And so when a guy came in and started saying all these things about the Magna Carta and that kind of thing, he was able to kind of take his time, be patient, and debunk them. And what happened was that guy went away. He followed actually that magistrate's advice and ended up not only bringing himself good, getting out of those beliefs, he now actually runs one of the most useful pseudo-law online resources to help people understand why these ideas are wrong.
Yeah.
And that was all possible pretty much because this guy was patient, that he had the time, which is very rare, and the person who was on the receiving end was humble enough to actually take someone else's feedback.
Right. And problem solve. I guess people there are looking to solve a problem.
It's a big problem. And that's what, if you think about it, conspiracy theories are not very good for you if you think about it. As in, if you're looking at the world and you're diagnosing it wrong, you're saying that these things are happening and you're misunderstanding it, it's going to lead to problems. If you believe that COVID vaccines are going to kill you rather than help you, then you're not going to get vaccinated, then you're probably going to get more sick. But what conspiracy theories actually do, what is their function, if you think about how it works in your brain, is that they give you a simple understanding of a complex world. They say that, the reason that you weren't able to pay your parking fine and now you're in court is not because legal systems are complex, all these things have gone wrong for you. It's that the world is conspiring against you. Fundamentally, you're a good person who unfair things are happening to. That is the benefit. That's why people like them, even though it often puts them in the wrong direction.
You have touched on how conspiracy theories can have a particularly Australian flavour. There is a bit of a sense that, the internet has meant that conspiracy theories are more popular than ever before. Is there any evidence to suggest that?
In the book, we speak to one of the leading academics in the world of conspiracy theories. And it's really funny because he is pissed off at journalists and everyone who talks about this, because everyone has this idea that everything is worse than it ever has been because of the internet, that more people believe in conspiracy theories than ever before. And this academic doesn't believe that that's the case. In fact, he has studied, he has literally looked at people who've written into the New York Times over more than 100 years. And he's been actually things are pretty consistent.
Yeah.
His case is that while you might believe, people are seeing all these conspiracy theories in the news feed in a way that wasn't possible before, these went on TV, so that's obviously going to increase that. He says it's actually easier than ever before to get good quality information. Put yourself in the scenario of back before we had mobile phones, you're sitting in a pub, someone comes up to you and says, I actually think that the moon landing was fake. And he's I have all this evidence because he's been studying it. And you're I don't really think that I agree, but I can't really, disprove that right now.
Right.
These days, if someone comes up to you and says this kind of thing, you kind of whip out your phone, you Google it, and usually the first thing you still see is like a high quality news source, and you're like, that's not legit, and you kind of like shuffle away from that guy at the pub. We think that seems like fairly true. That being said, it doesn't mean that like the way that conspiracy theories are communicated, the way that people believe in them, express them, and the way that people who believe in them like mobilize and organize hasn't changed. Like, the internet has changed everything. Of course, it's changed the way conspiracy theories go through society. We see that, in a way that's never been possible before. It's easy to connect to people who have similar beliefs.
Yes.
And if you think about it, you connect with someone with similar beliefs, they encourage what you believe.
They share more information.
They get you into new ones. And also you organize and you go and do things about it. So like, let's go back to the pub and, the guy says, I believe the moon landing was faked. Most of the time you would be like, well, I don't believe that. And so you would kind of be like, ugh. And then he would maybe feel a bit of shame about it. But when you go online and you search people who already believe what you believe, that encourages you and that makes you maybe think that it's a more popular view than it is. And then also kind of allows you to deepen and perhaps become more radical with your beliefs.
And can you explain how a conspiracy theorist's life can change based on what they believe?
It can change in a lot of ways. And we speak in the book to some people whose lives have been affected by it. There is there is research on how someone's actual life themselves changes. Like, they are less likely to do things that are going to be good for them because they believe that, for example, if you believe in COVID-19 conspiracy theories, you're not going to take COVID-19 public health restrictions and just general health information as well. And so you're more likely to get sick. You're also like, just generally, if you believe in conspiracy theories, which tend to be like fundamentally anti-democratic. It tends to be not that, we trust the people, but it's that actually that there are these secret forces conspiring against us that are infecting our systems. You're less likely to do things like, I'm going to go vote, I'm going to go run for office, because you don't believe in the systems and you are more inclined to doing things that are outside the systems, which includes abstaining or sometimes doing violent acts. So, fundamentally, these beliefs generally don't help you. They make the problems worse because you're not actually engaging with reality. And that's why I think like we all need to care about this, not just because like it might affect you, might affect people you love, people in your community, but when we have real problems in the world, which we do, there are a lot of people who want to use conspiracy theories to push the blame elsewhere. And that stops everyone from addressing the real problems that are underneath it.
Is there a particular type of person or a conspiracy theory archetype that is most likely to be drawn to some of these ideas?
Yeah, I mean, there has actually been like some interesting surveys done, for example, on who was more likely to be in COVID-19 kind of conspiracies in Australia. And you saw things like people who had pre-existing mental health conditions, males, saw people who had been religious, like a whole bunch of things. I just tend to think that conspiracy theories fundamentally are an inability to accept that the world is complicated, is complex, and people who are not, who are so sure of themselves, who want simple answers, but also believe what they feel above everything else. That's the kind of person who's going to get sucked into it. And so that's why I think sometimes you'd be like, you see people say, oh, conspiracy theorists, they're so dumb. Like, what are they doing? I don't think intelligence has anything to do with it. In fact, I actually think there's very intelligent, very accomplished people who believe in these things. In fact, maybe because of the same reasons that make them successful or intelligent, they think that they know better than other people. One of the other things that conspiracy theories do is they make us feel good about ourselves. We understand the world. Yeah, and we're smart enough to know it. Like we figured out the thing that all the other sheep don't know.
Oh my God, sheeple.
The sheeple, yeah. And so it is a way of feeling good about yourself sometimes in situations that aren't good. And so, when it comes to thinking about, well, what are the things that might make you prone to conspiracy theories, or even just not conspiracy theories, but beliefs in things that aren't true? What is the things that's going to help people out? I think you need to kind of understand that, like, often it does come down to a matter of pride. You should not be so proud of your own beliefs and your own understanding of the world that you can't change it. And when other people believe it, challenging them, going up to someone and saying, you are wrong, you are dumb, is not going to help. We kind of saw that the best way to help people out is not to lecture them, it's to give them a pathway to bring themselves out. To say, well, if a family member is into conspiracy theories, you don't have to talk to them about it. You might say, I don't want to, let's not talk about, what the government is doing. Let's just talk about the footy or whatever. but at the same time to keep that social connection open, because you want to give people the permission structure to be like, maybe I don't believe that anymore, or maybe I don't care about that anymore, and I want to have that normal life. Because, one of the big things that conspiracy theories also do is they offer people a sense of community very often. You, again, coming back to COVID, when everyone was locked down in their houses, when you were tuning into those 11 a.m. press conferences and you're like, this is not that great, believing in the conspiracy theories allowed you to ignore all that, to go out, to be in these protests, which they call protestivals because they had a festival atmosphere, to do the things that were fun, even though it wasn't the right thing, because you chose to believe in something else.
You mentioned that you had a level of empathy for those in the sovereign citizen movement. I know that's the US term. Was there a particular movement or theory that for you felt you could have been convinced or you could understand the lure of it?
That's a great question. So we did look at anti-vaccine and also anti-fluoride and its history in Australia, and it goes back quite a long way. There was a terrible incident in, I think, 1930 in Bundaberg where some vaccines back then, which weren't properly treated, led to the death of a number of children. It was traumatic. And we kind of linked that to saying this idea of people fearing them. But we also link it to this idea of the Australian identity and what does it mean to be Australian and the things that we think are important. In Australia, we're defined by our love of nature, the beach, the bush, all those kinds of things. And a lot of people think of vaccines as unnatural, even though they actually are kind of quite natural because, they are dead viruses that are injected to teach your body to react to it. The idea of an injection, a doctor doing all this stuff, it's kind of freaky. And so that's why you see the kind of that's where you see the association between Byron Bay and anti-vaccine, the yogis, the wellness, all that kind of stuff, because they're if you take care of yourself, natural immunity, you don't need these unnatural things. I really understand that. And also just even the fact that getting a vaccine, getting a needle into you is not very pleasant. No wonder in your head you're trying to come up with a reason why you don't want to do it other than just being a wimp like I am. Yeah. You're going to come up with actually it's not that good for you or actually I don't need it. It is very, very understandable. I'm not quite there yet, but I get it.
Picking up from the Byron Bay anti-vaccine kind of thinking, I think that was the first time we saw a bit of a horseshoe marriage of the so-called left and right combining. With conspiracy theories, does it sit anywhere on the political spectrum or is it apolitical?
It exists outside of the traditional political spectrum. I mean, we are seeing a massive political realignment generally. So nothing's perfectly on the spectrum anymore. You see people who would be traditionally maybe said as on the left and people who are on the right have these ideas. Fundamentally, it's quite a you would call it a reactionary view of the world because it is about being suspicious of other people. It's kind of very individualistic. Conspiracy theories are ultimately everyone else is bad or you can't trust them. I only have to look after yourself. And if you think about how it works, it has that corrosive effect on society because no one trusts another. But you really do see people from all sides of politics being brought into it. But it is quite a popular thing in politics. Denying climate change, which has been a major part of Australian political culture for 20 years, is a conspiracy theory. It's not that far to be I don't believe that climate change doesn't exist to I believe that there are powerful people trying to convince us that climate change exists. Sometimes it may be explicit, sometimes it's implicit in that. So I think it is a part of our political life. People can probably imagine some kinds of people who are indulging it more. We say in the book, we are very sympathetic and empathetic towards people who get sucked into these things because usually you don't want to believe something that's not right. It's usually bad for you. We are critical of the people who promote this stuff and who use it to help their cause. I mentioned before this idea of blaming the wrong people. It is a pretty potent political weapon to say, hey, you might think that we're the governing party, but actually we're the underdog because there are these secret forces against us who we're conspiring against. You see that in the US, I think, at the moment. It allows a party of government that has the Supreme Court, has the presidency, has all of Congress, still try to manufacture this idea of themselves as the underdog. That's the purpose that it serves people in power. we really just have to reject that. Like when you see politicians indulging in this, it is something that is really, really fundamentally bad for democracy.
I'm interested in any of your observations about some of the conspiracy theories on Charlie Kirk's assassination. Some were like, oh, the shot was too precise. It had to be someone in the military. It's because he spoke out critical of Israel. It's because he spoke out critical of trans communities. What have you been witnessing, and based on the expertise you have from this book?
I've seen all kinds of things, and it's just a reminder that everyone has their own little flavour of it, and everything in modern society now encourages us to weigh in on something, and particularly when there is a situation where there's not much information that someone that we're all alarmed about, it is ripe for people promoting their own conspiracy theories, because what's better than just being able to make up something that already proves exactly what you believe? Conspiracy theories fundamentally are about not like engaging with uncertainty, doubt, maybe even considering that you could be wrong. It's saying, I'm right no matter what you see or what you don't know. It proves exactly what I believe. So no wonder in a situation like this where it was traumatic, everyone was watching, there's so many different angles, you'd think that that would mean that there's more proof of things that would be harder to kind of spin conspiracy theories. But it's the opposite. The more angles there are of something, the more information you have about it, the more that people can selectively pick out and focus on to create their own version of the world. You see it happening all the time. Conspiracy theories are a really big part of natural life. In the book, we focus on the kind of most serious ones, but I think it's also just worth saying as a matter of understanding them that they include a whole bunch of activities. Many of us indulge in them, even if we don't actually really, really believe them. Like, you know, all the people who are saying stuff about whatever thing that happened. Like I remember the one that I always come back to is like I remember Kim Kardashian, she was robbed when she was in Paris. It was a big thing. And then all these people were kind of saying, actually, no, she didn't get robbed. It was a setup or whatever. You know, I think if you asked any of the people who were joking about it, like, do you actually really believe she's faking it? Maybe some do, maybe a lot don't, but it's enjoyable to kind of do. You know, we use these things to have fun and play with it.
What do you think about the current trust deficit in the media and its connection or correlation with conspiracy theories?
I think the spaces that you see conspiracy theories come out of is those little cracks in our understanding of the world. And maybe that's the kind of conflict in our ideas about ourselves. Like we talk about in Australia about how complicated, let's put it that way, relationship to race leads to people to have conspiracy theories. The other thing is like just when, you know, people in the media stuff things up, we are human, that kind of happens. But when they are not transparent or do things to build trust in them that they are humans, but humans who are trying their best and giving you information that you can understand in context. And so, you know, when you see outlets with a really strong editorial slant to the point that they're either kind of sensationalizing or misrepresenting things, that's, I think, where you lead people to be like, well, of course I'm not going to trust you. And then they look for other places that are telling them messages that they are more likely to trust. So, you know, I don't want to put this all on the feet of the media. Like there's all of our institutions can do better. We've had hundreds of years when governments, newspapers, everything you can imagine have taken people's trust for granted. I think it's a great thing that we now have more viewpoints out there than ever before. Some of those viewpoints are conspiracy theorists and you know, that's okay. I think like, unfortunately, that is a byproduct of everyone kind of having a chance to have their say. I just think that now more than ever before, media needs to be so responsible about being upfront and clear about what they're doing it and why, not expecting people to trust them, but making the case why you should trust them and bringing them along with you.
To bring it back to the book for just a moment, you do have a co-author in Ariel Bogle. What was it like writing a book on such a complex subject matter with somebody else?
It was a pleasure, and it was probably something that kept me sane because, you know, I was saying before I was not having a full mental breakdown, but I was being like, you know, what do I believe and why do I believe it? Do I believe in conspiracy theories? Why do I believe in anything? It's nice to have someone else.
Because of people that you met and things that you uncovered?
Well, just things like, you know, like you say, oh, you know, conspiracy theorists believe in something because they don't have proof. And then you say, well, like sometimes the things that I believe, like I might say, oh, you shouldn't go to sleep with wet hair. And I'm like, why do I think that?
Oh my gosh, I think that too.
Exactly. Yeah. And you're like, why do you think that? And you're like, I haven't read like a peer-reviewed article. Of course you haven't. We all have beliefs and ideas about the world that aren't like, you know, peer-reviewed and based in research. And I think that is like a big part of the book, understanding that like any of us could be a conspiracy theorist, and even if we're not, like many of us are pretty close to them in beliefs, like not that far away. Having someone else who's your sounding board, who's in the trenches with you, was just an incredible experience. Like, I mean, I don't know if other co-authors had this experience, but it was a breeze for us. Writing a book is a really solitary affair, as you know well. It was so good to write it with someone else.
And maybe she helped you not become a conspiracy theorist.
Maybe. Yeah, no, I think, it's a great thing. And yeah, exactly. Like, a bit of community helps you. That's the kind of bulwark against these beliefs, and Ariel was that for me.
It has been such a pleasure chatting.
Thank you so much.
That was Cameron Wilson. Conspiracy Nation is available at all good bookstores. And you know what? Probably some average ones too. But the book is definitely worth reading. Okay, it is your favourite time of the week. Well, let's be honest, it's my favourite time of the week because I get to give you unsolicited advice on what to watch, see and do. I think it's certainly my place to tell you what to do with your time and your money, and to help me do that for the weekend list this week is Chris.
Woohoo!
I'm very excited to see what you have up your sleeve.
Yes. So look, last time we did the list together, I recommended an audiobook. And you
hadn't finished. I remember it.
Yes. And you said one of the caveats is that when you recommend something, you have to finish doing it. Didn't finish that audiobook.
Okay.
However, the purpose of that audiobook was to get me back into reading.
Okay.
And guys, I got back into reading.
Very good.
So a book that was recommended to me is called Before the Coffee Gets Cold. It is a Japanese bestseller.
Oh.
And as someone who's trilingual, I obviously read it.
Yeah.
No,
you're trilingual.
No, I'm not. No, I'm not.
Okay.
It is translated in English, but it is a great story. It's part of a series which I didn't realize, and this is important for you to know. So the series follows, this Japanese cafe in which you sit down at a particular spot, and if you drink that coffee takes you back in time. It takes you back in time, and you have to drink it before the coffee gets cold. Otherwise, I think you're stuck there. I don't really know.
Yeah.
Like I said, part of a series.
Okay.
I picked up what I thought was book number 1.
Okay.
I read book number 2.
Yes, very good.
Great book. Highly recommend it. Have bought book number 1.
At what point did you realise this wasn't the start?
When I went to buy number 2.
Oh my
and
God.
it was the exact same book.
Yeah.
But look, makes your heart feel warm and fuzzy, really gets you in that reflective mood. I was a bit lost. I was like, wait, who's this character? Why hasn't this character been introduced to me?
Okay.
But if you're feeling like it's an easy book, it's like a novella. It's really small.
Nice.
It's
Okay.
small chapters, makes you feel really good about yourself, and gets you really valuing the people in your life, which I think is beautiful.
Okay, I think I need that book. So what's it called again?
Before the Coffee Gets Cold.
Okay, and there is a part 1, and they're all like part 1, part 2 under the same name.
Correct.
Okay.
And get the teal covered one because that's number 1, not the yellow
Teal-covered
one.
Okay, great recommendation. Also very proud of you for reading the full book. But I mean, it was the wrong one, but I'm still proud of you. We are making progress, Chris. Okay, so my recommendation is a Netflix series and it's called Pop Star Academy KATSEYE.
Yes, this is about the K-pop group.
Yes.
Oh, I love this.
It is a talent show type formula, which we've seen with Australian Idol and all the various offshoots, but it's done through a K-pop lens and it's like a global search for 6 next kind of superstars and, people from Sweden and Australia and Brazil and the US and Korea and Japan and all that. And I guess what I love about it is for so long, we have seen pop stars in the Western sense and they've come through the Disney Channel and they, they used to be Britney Spears and they, they all kind of look the same and sounded the same or whatever. Yeah. Like that iteration of the big pop star or the girl groups. And watching that, I just couldn't help but think these girls are so freaking talented. Like they're in this competition in this house for over a year. And when they don't think the standard is high enough, they bring in a whole bucket load of women, young women from all over the world. And it just made me think Spice Girls would never pass even the first round.
No.
These girls sing, dance incredibly. They've got X Factor times 100. Yes, they are all beautiful. Yes, they are all young. They do have to look a certain part. But I love the last 6 are all super multicultural and bloody talented.
So here's a little scoop on that grip for you, right?
Okay.
So I did a deep dive not too long ago on K-pop and this whole K-pop world on the back end of K-pop Demon Hunters.
Which I love.
Oh, such a good movie and great soundtrack.
Yeah.
There are some accusations that group that's been made was purposefully made to be multicultural to crack the Western world.
Right.
Not that it's a bad accusation. Let's be honest. It's quite clever, to be honest.
Because
But
every
there's a little
single
nugget for
girl
you.
is like Filipino or Brazilian, Swedish, Indian American. Like they are all. I wondered if it was to do both East and West to crack the sort of South Asia market and the Western market, in which case, like, they have had some success. I don't think they're as kind of big and huge as they would have liked to be, but I really appreciated the talent and the process. I also liked seeing the people in charge and the judges being Korean.
Yeah. It is so interesting. It is so interesting. It's a whole different world.
And I'm constantly singing their really poppy songs and trying to do their hand gestures, and I just look like I'm having a stroke when I do it. But I'm having a lot of fun trying.
Would you like to demonstrate some for
there's one, hands up, Gabriella.
Thank God this is just audio only.
Yeah, I look like I'm having a stroke. But anyway, this is, I'm not a K-pop person. I don't even watch The Voice or whatever, but I couldn't stop watching Pop Star Academy KATSEYE.
Great recommendation. Look, I'm going to come in hot with my second recommendation, which is also in the world of music.
Okay.
Have you seen the NPR Tiny Desk concerts?
Yes. Yeah.
Great.
Yeah,
okay.
yeah.
So it's like
They're quite famous.
They're quite famous.
Yeah.
NPR is this American
Public broadcaster.
and they do Tiny Desk concerts. So they get big stars who stand. It looks like a library, to be honest. Some bring bands with them, some don't. Someone who did bring her band, Gloria Estefan.
Oh my gosh.
Dude.
That is like a blast from the past.
Dude, this concert, next level. I mean,
so
not
for
next
anybody
level.
who doesn't know Gloria Estefan, she's a Latino-American singer. What's her big hit?
Conga.
Oh, can you do it? I can't sing it.
You were going to do that to
Yeah.
me. No, come on. For copyright reasons, because I sound a lot like the real Gloria Estefan when I sing as someone who's, multifaceted with all my talents.
Yeah.
But Conga is her lead thing. But what
You'll know it. You'll know the
her.
song.
Yeah. But the thing about her, which I really, really liked, is that she gave us a lot of commentary throughout the concert. So it's 30 minutes. She's given us some of her new stuff, some of her greatest hits, but she's telling us the through line and the stories of the music that she's playing, and she's calling out the band members, and her husband's there, and he was part of Miami Sound Machine, which is the band that she was originally part of. Anyway, whatever. It goes into, stories, and it's good. It is a very good concert. What I liked the most, and it's something that you do a lot on this podcast, especially on the list, is when she was pronouncing Latin words. She wasn't doing like the Anglo pronunciation. She was rolling her R's, like when you say labne.
Yeah.
She was really going on. I just loved it. Like, she was trickling in little bits of Latin culture, and then she was singing, and, watch her do conga. She was struggling to keep up, but it was beautiful.
Because conga's like decades old, isn't it?
Decades old. Yeah, I'm pretty sure. Let's do a live fact check.
Yeah, we're going to do that because, I mean, I reckon she's been a music star for at least 30 years. That's my estimation. What is it? Okay,
so the conga, the conga.
Yes, yeah.
The song conga came out in 1985.
Okay, so that's 40 years.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's quick maths. Yeah.
Well done. I hope so. We can fact check that
That's
after,
definitely 40. Yeah, wow.
Yeah.
Well, I can imagine why she would be struggling to keep it, because that is such a, come on, everybody, let's do the Anyway, guys, that was a real treat for you. You're welcome. Okay, my final recommendation is, and I know that you've just prefaced this before, KATSEYE labna, which is a Lebanese yogurt dip, is batota harra, which
is... I'm so glad I'm part of this list.
Which is this dish which everybody loves. And the thing about Lebanese dishes is their names are so literal. So batota harra means potato spicy.
Oh,
literally
spicy
potato.
Really?
And so and so when we have something like djej adas, it means chicken on rice. It's very literal. But what this is, it's like a 5-ingredient dish that I put on the side of anything. And so it has potatoes cut up in cubes. It has cayenne pepper, it has coriander, it has garlic, and it has lemon.
Oh, easy.
And I sort of let it marinate, and then I literally on 220 in the oven, crisp it so it's kind of feels fried, or you can do it air fried. Depending on the strength of your oven, it can take about 30 to 35 minutes. And as a side dish, it just bursts with flavour. And I was like, oh my God, this is so amazing. And it's so cheap because it's potato.
How long are you letting it marinate before putting it in the oven?
Honestly, it depends how much time I have. Sometimes I'll do a couple of hours. Sometimes
Hours?
Yeah.
Oh.
Or sometimes I'll just do it. I just do it on the spot.
Okay, fair enough. So, and it still tastes good.
It's divine. It is divine.
There you go, briefers. There's a little hack for you.
Coriander, potatoes. Everyone's like, oh, so fancy. And it's not fancy at all.
No.
5 really easy, cheap ingredients. We'll put a link into a bit more specificity about how much lemon, how much garlic, because I always do way too much garlic, way too much salt, because I can't help myself.
Correct.
But we'll put that in the show notes. that is it for this week. Thank you so much for hanging out with us. It is always a pleasure to keep you company, and I would love to hear your thoughts on this chat with Cameron Wilson. You can, of course, leave 5 stars, leave us a review, and usually I would say the team will be back in your ears on Monday with the headlines and a fascinating deep dive. But because we are feeling so generous, there is a bonus dropping on Sunday. Make sure you catch it, and I will catch you next week.